Why don't we kick it off? Since, if we get more people, they'll come in and sit there, so we can move around. Thank you very much for coming today. This is the IMCCA UC session on huddle room explosion, wading through the noise to find the right solution. That's a pretty tall order. How many of you know what the IMCCA is? Raise your hands if you're familiar. If you're not members, you should be members. It's free. Please go down to booth 2969 and you can sign up to give them your name and your email. We are the collaboration partner for Infocom. We do all the collaboration sessions at Infocom shows. We do other events. We work with a lot of manufacturers. We have some great partners and members like Logitech and Crestron and most of the people here up on the board, so up on the panel. So please join. It's a great organization. Let me not waste your time with too much information about me. That's more information than my family really even needs to know about. If you would like to get information, you can see a URL down at the bottom. Just type my name, danto.info, into any browser, and you get, like I said, more information. The things to take away, though, is stunningly, I am in my 38th year of trying to figure out what it is I'm going to be when I grow up. I spent the majority of that career as an end user. So I was in the financial services and in broadcasting. I built all of Mike Bloomberg's TV and radio stations. Now, the last 6 years, I've been with Dimension Data. Dimension Data has a booth downstairs. I'm a consultant. I need clients to make a living, so please come down and talk to us. And if I can help you with any of your things, my clients include Fortune 100 companies. They include small companies. They include now probably about 40–45% manufacturers are hiring me for go-to-market advice. So by all means, please be in touch. And if I can help you, I'm happy to. So that's all the commercials you're going to get today. Let's talk about the reality meetings. And I have to stay here because I didn't get a clicker, so I'm hanging here and I'm uncomfortable. I'll move around later. When I started in this industry, we were building conference rooms. We were building rooms for the boardroom and the CIO and the CEO, and they had these, usually one big screen in the middle and two wing screens on the side of a table that held 50 people, and nobody used them, for the most part. Once a month, once every 2 months, for a board meeting and a management meeting, and most of the time, if you walk in there, there'd be 2 or 3 people in there, or in fact, there would be 2 or 3 people wandering the halls trying to find a place to meet because they don't want to use the CEO's room, because they know it's not right for them. It's supposed to be held for the CEO. That's the reality of meetings today. We work in a distributed environment. The way we work has changed. Most of the people we work with are virtual. I work in an organization, Dimension Data. We have close to 30,000 people globally that work for us. My direct relationships are with people. I'm in New Jersey. I'm with people in Atlanta, with people in Raleigh, with people in California. We can't have a conference room and go to a meeting anymore. Maybe 2 or 3 of us go to a meeting where I bring a vendor in or a partner in and we go to a room, but it's 2 or 3 of us and everybody else is somewhere else. It's virtual. We need spaces and capabilities and technologies to be able to support us the way we work, which is 1 or 2 or 3 people meeting anywhere. If you want to come, I'll show you later, I have on my phone a picture I took when I was at an airport in Canada. I had a 3-hour layover and I was on a video call. That's where I was. That was my office. That's where I took the call. So we have to change the way we build rooms from big, complicated rooms to small, simple rooms. And that's what's brought about this idea of a huddle. So I tried a couple of years ago to define a huddle room, and it was kind of impossible. So I started with it like this: that a huddle room is a space where small groups of people can go to have meetings away from the noise and activities of today's typically dense office environments. That makes sense, right? You guys nod that? Okay. Depending upon the culture of your organization, they could be spaces with walls, huddle rooms, versus spaces without walls, because some companies just have huddle spaces, just go into the corner or the area and do it. And they may or may not be intended for impromptu meetings. A lot of my clients build these things, and up to 50% of them are not bookable. Half of them you can reserve. The other half you can't reserve. They're for people who need a place to go and just wander in and use it. The majority of these spaces are equipped with basic technology to support collaboration with remote people. But that's the problem. What's your definition of basic? This is something I like to remind people. Everybody know the parable of the 3 blind men and the elephant? Raise your hands. A couple people know. Okay, I've said it at a few conferences before. 3 blind men all are asked to go touch an elephant and describe it. And one described it like a big floppy, leathery thing that's moving around, and one describes it as a big, huge, because they're all touching different spaces of it. Depending upon which part of the industry you're touching, you're going to describe huddle rooms differently and what your product is. The problem with it is we all understand it's a different way of working, and the technology we've had up to now doesn't work for it. Let me play a commercial from one of our manufacturers, from Logitech, which is old. It's last year's. It's kind of funny, but it sort of talks about what the problems are in the space. It's very short.
I hope HR does not come in right now. I'm sorry.
They're packed like pickles. Are we gonna fit?
Yeah.
Hey everybody, so let's go ahead and dive on in. Are we on schedule? I'm sorry, what was that?
What did he say?
Maybe it's a saying like spread good cheer.
I'll look it up.
Bearwood, Sharewood.
I said we're good.
We also spread bare wood on this side over here. We thought there was a bear. We thought maybe there was a bear.
So the interesting thing about that commercial, and it's kind of funny, I still like looking at it, the interesting thing is it describes a bunch of different problems that need to be resolved in the space. Poor audio. Rooms not set for a small number of people in a short space. Cameras not able to pick up the right amount of people in the right space. Poor quality devices that may not have the bandwidth or the processing power or whatever to be able to send the video across. So in that one commercial, you can see what all the problems are. And if we go back to that parable about the blind man and the elephant, depending upon where you are in the industry, you're going to be tackling different parts of the problem. And that's kind of what we have to deal with to wade through all this stuff. If you are a software services provider, if you're making a software platform, then you're telling everybody, just use your PC, click on our meeting, and everything's going to work great, because that's the product that they make. There are problems when you come up with that. If you're a peripheral hardware manufacturer, it's going to be use our device, use our camera. It solves your problems, but it introduces other problems. If you're in the audio space, you might be producing a system that doesn't have any video involved in it at all, and it's going to be a great audio solution, but then how do you handle the video? And then you still have legacy manufacturers in the space that are making good all-in-one products that solve all of the problems, but they're usually much more expensive, and they usually require either infrastructure or cloud service to work. So there's no perfect answer here, and that's what we have to go through. We have to go through each of those scenarios to figure out what the pros and cons are and how you want to deal with it. I'm going to do that. I'm going to take an exercise for a few minutes to go through that briefly so we can understand it. If you're using a software solution, a cloud provider, one of the service providers in the space, it's cheap. My God, it's free, right? Sometimes it's just free. Just download the client, open an application, you can start using it. And it's usually very easy to use. What are the problems with that application? Well, if you're going to do this on a PC, whose PC are you going to use? If you're at your desk, okay, fine, you're using yours. If you're at a conference room, is it in the conference room? Are you bringing the PC to the conference room? If it was sitting there, who's pushing software updates to it? What's the next patch that's going to come along with security that's going to break the system? What are you using as a camera? Do you have a really good camera? Let's look at some cameras in the space, or are you just using a webcam in the PC? Or even worse, a number of very large companies just have regular computer webcams, scotch taped to or Velcro to the top of a display. This is, by the way, this is a technical term. We're going to get this located with one of the performance committees in the department. My arm. This is the Danto webcam appropriateness detector. And you should feel free to use this all the time. If you're sitting in a huddle room and you can conceivably touch the camera, bend, stretch, whatever you need to do, if you can actually make it, it's good use of a fixed focal length web camera. If you can't touch it, it's the wrong camera. You've got to use something that has the ability to zoom or crop or do something else, because webcams just don't work in rooms like that. And when using a software solution, there isn't a lot of remote management capabilities. How do you know if the system's not working? You know because somebody calls you and says, I can't make it work, as opposed to the hardware solutions that are monitorable. So again, pros and cons. Peripheral hardware. That means adding a camera, like the one we saw in the commercial, or any of the good cameras and systems that people out there right now. It improves the video. If it's an audio peripheral, it improves the audio. Didn't solve any of the other problems. Whose PC is it? Who's managing the PC? Is there any monitoring? Who's dealing with security? Who's dealing with all those issues? Audio hardware. Well, when we put an audio system in a room, wow, all of a sudden now you can hear people, they can hear you. It's a great little speaker in the middle of the room. How are you handling video? You need another device? Oh yeah, sure, just use our fabulous speakerphone. It works with one of these cheap webcams. Well, can I use a better webcam? No, it only works with one of the cheap webcams. If you want a better webcam, you have to buy a more expensive solution. And again, you still have issues with whose PC it is. Then you have this class of systems that are webcams with little embedded microphones on them that are incompatible with everything else that's out there. They're all in one, they're easy to use, they're simple to install, and they're awful, in my opinion. Sorry about that. The video is often poor, the interoperability is often not there, it's proprietary systems, it doesn't work with anything you already own. You know, if you're a brand new company that's not doing any video conferencing and you want to invest in a system and it's the only one you're going to use and you're only going to talk to people within your own company, good choice. Other than that, this is a new class that's coming out. There are now 3 manufacturers that are making what I'll refer to as speaker bar video devices. Anybody know who the 3 are? You want to shout it out? Let me know if you know who's making them. Yamaha's one. Logitech's the other one. Say again?
Cisco.
Nope.
Harman.
Harman through the AMX people are making. This is the idea that there's a speaker array in the shape of a speaker bar that sits by the display, and it's got a built-in web camera, and it's got a microphone array. So it's kind of like the inexpensive systems, but they're actually working to solve some of the problems with that. Are they great? Are they terrible? Will we have more products in this space? I don't know. We still need to look at it. It's still going to hook up to somebody's PC. So you still have all the PC issues. Maybe you ditch all of that stuff and you go and look at maybe one of the Cisco MX 200, 300 small drop-in systems. You put them in a room. Great camera, great video, great audio, looks beautiful. Will cost you probably about, I don't know, 10, 15 times more than one of those peripheral systems that you're talking about, and it's got to register to something. You want to buy a Cisco Call Manager infrastructure, you want to register it to their Spark cloud or to a third party's cloud, you've got to deal with that, but the costs are higher. The quality's better, but the costs are higher. What's the trade-off you want to deal with? And then we have a lot of AV integrators at the show here. Raise your hands, who's an end user in my room? Who uses the technology? A little more than half. Who's an integrator or installer of technology or manufacturer? Okay, probably about 70%, 75% are end users here. A lot of the integrators here will tell you, forget all this Huddle room stuff. It's crazy. You're putting in cheap garbage. Come to us. We will do a custom design for you of a small room, put in just some small features, and you'll have exactly what you need, and you'll really enjoy it. And when you get exactly what you want, and it's customized for your environment, the performance is going to be better than anything else that's out there. Who's going to pay for the installation? Who's going to pay for the custom programming? Who's going to update the programming the next time there's a security problem, the next weak cry that comes out? Who's going to go in and patch the audio processor and the video processor and the display? And there are a lot of security issues with that. So I've gone through everything that I know that covers the Huddle space, and I haven't found a perfect solution there. It depends what your actual needs are at your organization. I do want to point out one last thing about this, that camera technology is taking a revolution right now. It's not just a small change, it's an actually pretty big change. That the first thing we've realized is when you're in a Huddle room, typically, you're going to be a lot closer to the display. You're going to be standing right next to it. And a typical conference camera, or webcam, it's not even going to have an angle that can show somebody sitting close to the display. So everything we've got out on the market doesn't work. And the things that are starting to come on this space, like over the last 6 months or year, this is a slide, thank you Logitech for giving me this slide, shows the difference between a field of view. We need a much wider field of view to capture people in a Huddle room that are sitting closer to the table. And a number of manufacturers are doing that in a number of different ways, but it's definitely something to be aware of. If you're putting a camera in a Huddle room space, that's something that you have to pay attention to. And then finally, I want to point this out because it's the future, that we are now starting to see intelligent tracking cameras come out on the market. And there are only 2 out right now, so I'm going to point them out. I don't mind doing that. One of them is one of our panelists, Altia Systems, that's making their Panicast 2 camera that built into the webcam has facial tracking. So if you put it in that room that's in our picture before with those, let's say there's a 5th seat at the end, you put it in there, but there's only one person sitting, it says, oh, I see there's only one person in the room. And it electronically crops the shot. No zoom. No pan tilt, it takes the wide captured image and crops the shot. It's intelligent tracking. And the Cisco product, which is built into one of their latest codecs, does the same thing. You see, it sees there's only 2 people in the room and it makes a 2-shot. But keep in mind how wildly different this is. This isn't a zoom lens. This isn't optically moving in. This is capturing a very wide, high-resolution image, 4K, 5K, 8K image. And it's looking at that image and it's seeing where there are faces. And it's cropping the image and giving you the perfect shot. And in Cisco's case, they're also able to do that in following speakers if you want to do that. Come back to InfoComm in Vegas next year, first week of June. I'm sure there'll be more manufacturers doing this. This is the future of cameras. Pan tilt zooms are going away. So that's a lot of information in a short period of time. I'm kind of done. The trade-offs. You have price versus quality. You have appliance, which is monitorable and manageable and easy to update, versus PCs, which are cheaper and easier to distribute, but don't give you that management and security capabilities. Personal devices, are people bringing their notebook around and just plugging into a peripheral in the room? Or is there something in the room, and that needs to be managed by somebody? Custom versus scalable. You want to buy 10,000 of one thing, or do you want to design a system that's hard to do 10,000? And then you still want to put in static cameras or PTZ cameras. You want to start moving to these intelligent tracking cameras. These are all fair questions and things that we need to go through. So I'm going to let my panelists introduce themselves, starting with Wayne at the end. Who you are, what you do, briefly, and then when we get done, I've got, like I said, I mentioned before some of you came in, I got about 5 or 6 questions to ask them. I'd rather not ask them my questions, I'd rather ask them your questions. So just raise your hand, I'll come around with the microphone, and we should have a good lively chat. Go ahead.
Wayne Triggers, I work in...
Bring the mic really close.
Wayne Triggers, I work with Channel Online's
May not be on.
development.
Flip the switch on. Everybody turn the lights on. Okay, ready, set, go.
It's on.
Is it? Test. I can be loud. Wayne
Excuse me a
Triggers,
second, guys.
Channel Online's development at Zoom Video.
It's good.
Wayne Triggers, I work in Channel Online's development at Zoom Video Communications. We are a cloud-based web and video collaboration organization.
Chris Thorson, Senior Director of Product Marketing for Polycom. You probably know us for our in-room audio conference phones, but we also make video conferencing equipment for rooms of all sizes, and work with many of the people and products that we see here in the show and the panel today.
Holger Stolz, I'm the Director of Product Management for Yamaha. We manufacture motorcycles. Oh, no, that's the other one. We manufacture audio devices and starting now also video devices, specifically for meeting rooms, and work with a lot of the people on this board as well as in the industry generally as well.
I've got one, thank you. Hello, I'm Aurangzeb Khan. I'm with Altea Systems Panicast. We make the intelligent computer vision-based array camera system used for huddle room video as well as intelligent information, which I hope to share more with you as we go through the day.
Good morning, good afternoon, I guess at this point getting close. Nick Milani, Executive Director, Cloud Solutions at Crestron Electronics. You'll notice I don't have UC in my title. I also come with a little bit of a unique perspective in that I've worked in the furniture industry for a number of years and have a lot of experience with workplace strategy. So Crestron Electronics, most of you know, we've made a number of corporate technologies, including some new UC devices this year that we've introduced at the event.
And my name is Alan Smith. I am a Senior Product Manager at Logitech, working in the Video Collaboration Group. And Logitech actually does a few things besides mice and keyboards. We have a few products here that work with the collaboration space. And so excited to be here on the panel.
I'm going to take the middle one, you guys share 3 and 3. How's that? Okay. Wow, that's loud. Sorry. Sam, you're AV guy too today. Cool. All right, so the first question that I have for the panel, and I guess this is a fair question from somebody that's been in the industry as long as I and some of the rest of us have. If we're looking at huddle rooms, what are we giving up? We used to have conference rooms, we used to have complex controllers, we used to have cameras everywhere, we used to have very complex systems. Now we're talking about a room for 2 or 3 people with inexpensive, simple electronics. What are we losing in that? Are we losing anything? Is there something that, go ahead, you just speak up, grab the mic and go.
You know, I'm not sure we're losing a whole lot because the world's changed, the way people work has changed. Particularly millennial companies, particularly high technology companies, we find the natural way of working is using audio and video and all kinds of tools together. And actually we think that this whole space will evolve, as you said, very rapidly, and a lot of the intelligence functions and features that can be added now weren't actually even possible, 10 years ago. So I think you're ending up with a much richer set of data, big data to go along with video and audio to make the collaboration just that much more seamless.
So no, we're not losing anything, we're only gaining.
I think we're gaining a lot.
You're making trade-offs, right? You had your list up there of all the different choices and decisions. There are products that solve many of those problems. There's products that solve all those problems. It's a cost equation is a lot of times the question of how much am I willing to pay for those rooms. I mean, the whole idea of the huddle room is I need a space that can service a lot of folks. It's going to be, real estate's very, very costly inside the organization. And so I'm servicing more people with more smaller rooms, but I'm trying to keep the cost down, so by pushing the cost down, suddenly you have to start making some of those trade-offs. And it's up to you where you decide to make those trade-offs because of the breadth of products that are out there today.
I think the risk is actually in the way that spaces get implemented for us as an industry, is that we've been, as you said, historically designed to the executive fancy spaces. And as an industry, we're oftentimes thought about when we think about these new and unique spaces. And having worked at Herman Miller and worked with architects who lead that charge, they're the ones that are oftentimes forgetting to put it into the consultant specs, forgetting to address the integrator, and thinking about it as a cohesive technology. It's one thing. The other thing I'll also mention is that human beings actually interact in person quite a bit as well. And we can't ignore that video is really important, but the majority of our day is actually spent talking to other humans, especially in an enterprise or corporate environment. Now, if you're in a small business and you work with a lot of customers, sure, you do a lot of video calling. But we have to think about that primary function of a huddle space is designed for people to very quickly get together, share information, and then collapse the conversation. Anything that becomes a barrier to that is a problem. So we've got to adapt as an industry to make sure it's simple, quick, and easy for people to create the communication, then collapse the communication and move on. If we do that, I think it's going to be a huge opportunity for us as an industry.
Okay, good. Grab that.
One last thing to add also, there's a huge upside here because the scale of these rooms is enormous. We've got customers now that have implemented 500 rooms. And many folks here have had bigger rollouts. And that's just in one city, and then some that have hundreds around the world. So the scale at which this is taking off, I think is unprecedented. It's a really great thing.
Okay.
And I agree with Nick as well that you definitely have to accommodate the in-person session, but I think at the distributor workforce, how many people are going to have 3 people that can provide an answer in the same location? No matter what, you're bringing in someone that's outside the environment, you're bringing someone that's on a floor down, and you don't want to waste the productivity to actually travel up to the next floor to have the conversation face to face. So I think that it is more prevalent, video and content and voice collaboration in those spaces is becoming, much more prevalent than just a physical conversation. So, and go back to the point where we're losing, I don't think we can lose anything. I mean, the boardroom fix is so singular, and the amount of people requiring that huddle environment, you're not losing anything by adding spaces. It's, even if it is just a physical space where we gather, it's better than not having a space to go to when the boardroom's taken.
Yeah, well, let me challenge that then. Probably about 15 years ago in my career, I was responsible for large financial services organizations, video infrastructure. I had a whole team doing it. I was the senior guy. But I still kept an eye on our monitoring platform. And I was out at a trade show, I think at 4 in the morning, waking up, and I just took a glance at it, and I noticed the CIO's unit wasn't connected. It had an error message. What do? We told somebody hey, you better go check that, because if you don't do that and she tries to use it, it's going to be a crisis. Guess what? Nobody checked it. It was a crisis. But I had that notice. The systems we're talking about using, most of them in the rooms, the only way you're going to know they don't work is when somebody tries and it doesn't work. Isn't that a major loss? Isn't that a major problem where now our end users are the canary in the coal mine?
It can be. Being a cloud service, not to go into advertisement, but being able to implement those management capabilities with notifications of people managing the rooms, whether you have, is the cloud service running, what's connected to that environment, is there a camera plugged in, is there not a camera plugged in, is the power gone out, is something going on? Having those notifications to make individuals that are responsible for the rooms aware is a key component. And it's something that is a mandatory component in order to make sure that there's real-time notification of what's working, what's not, so you can get it addressed quickly.
Can you provide that with your service? Okay, good. Just grab the mics, keep talking.
David, also just to add to that, even though it's a very small device, with 9 processors, there's a lot going on in these devices. One of the key components, because many of us came from an enterprise background, and you make a very key point. When you've got 1,000 of these, how do you upgrade them? How do you maintain them and so on, right? If these are deployed in a huddle room configuration, often there's a NUC behind those. And we provide a manageability portal that will let IT drive updates to it and also get constant reporting on the health. Also, when the device wakes up, it self-calibrates to the environment, to the space it's in, and does a number of internal checks. So we're trying to put all of those enterprise manageability features, at least in I think many people are. We're one of many Zooms doing something similar, so that, as you said, the end user doesn't have a bad experience at the end of the food chain.
So is that a fair conclusion that we can make, that now that we're looking at the generation of products we're looking at for huddle rooms, manufacturers are now starting to realize that management is something that's required, and everybody's starting to look at that?
Once again, it's already there. If that's something that's important enough for you, those systems are there. It depends on what kind of deployment. If you've gone with a deployment where everything is isolated, independent, connecting my PC, no, you're not going to get that data. But if you have, like you said, another portfolio on your spectrum, oh, I can get those things that are all connected.
Okay. That's exactly the thing. It's, if you deploy 1, 2, 3 rooms, this might not be high on your list. But as we said earlier, if you're deploying 100 rooms or 500 rooms or 1,000 rooms, this should be very high on your list. How am I able to manage it? And I agree, these products are out there, so you are able to manage these, and you are able to manage these, and you are able to find products which are manageable and send you the SNMP traps or whatever it is, which give you actually the proactive warning, as well as the capability of reactively when somebody calls in and says, I have a problem with this room, go into it remotely without having to walk over it. As I say, it's a half mile or the 2 miles or the 5 miles or the 2 continents, wherever that meeting room is. So the products are out there to help you.
And what I would argue is, it's not a question. Do it.
Right.
There's no downside. I don't
It's
care.
a recommendation.
No, but it's not a recommendation. Do it. Put it in there. Put the hooks, have the traps. And by the way, if you're not working with devices that have that capability, that should be a showstopper. Just like if they can't accomplish basic security needs, don't put them in the spaces. Why risk it?
Okay, but wait, now, hold it a second, fairly, let's challenge that. I get to see a lot of my clients and a lot of companies that might be my clients, and I go to very large, prestigious organizations, the largest software manufacturer in the world, or provider in the world. You walk into their huddle rooms. Their huddle rooms have a webcam on a flat panel TV with a wire on the table.
Yep,
Might be a USB wire, might be something else, and the expectation is I'm going to bring my notebook, I'm going to bring my tablet, I'm going to bring my thing into the room and plug it in, and I'm just going to start doing conferencing.
And it's a mistake.
Why is it a
The reason
mistake?
why it's a mistake is beyond the management, it's the quantification of the space. So I met with one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. This started the conversation of, I took your software out of the bid because I don't want to deal with the software. And the software we do does the monitoring and management, and I'm responsible for it. So this is a quick meeting, thanks so much, I'll move along. I said, why did you remove it? She goes, well, it doesn't matter, we're just going to have a cable in the space. I go, well, how do you know if people are actually using the space? So beyond just the monitoring of the device, we have to think about the analytics that grants us. And in a huddle space, especially in an open area huddle space, I'm talking about pseudo occupancy through USB connection. So if I know that people are actually connecting and using the display, if I'm monitoring whether it's working, now all of a sudden I'm also getting data about how often is that space occupied. And that's not even, guys, if you think that's even a question, in the next 5 years, it's going to be an expectation. We have to have that. And even if your customer doesn't understand it, putting those systems in today will pay benefits in 2 years when they finally figure out that it's important.
So you're suggesting that people not base their engines and processors on BYOD devices, that they have something in the room?
Sorry, I got to clarify. No. It's absolutely BYOD. The key there is that we need to be able to monitor the space. There's no reason why we can't have both. So we have USB, HDMI-based devices that allow you to connect, to replicate a Logitech camera, or to have that experience. But we can also monitor and track the information about how it's being used.
So a midpoint device.
Exactly.
That goes between the BYOD and the peripheral.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess I would what you're implying is that somehow there's some problem with bringing in a laptop and using that to run a meeting. The benefit of that is, one, from a cost standpoint, it's better. The second part of that is that people are pretty familiar with the applications they're using. If they're doing desktop video already, if they're doing Zoom calls, they know how that works. They can come in and plug in their laptop. It's the exact same interface. There isn't training. They don't have to do it. I would say probably half of our customers are in a situation where they bring in a laptop and they think that's a great way to go.
I think we're talking about many different ways, many different preferences. It's all use case. It's all understanding what the customer wants. It may be different needs in different environments. I think providing an application that can, or providing a service that can accommodate all nodes is kind of what we're trying to approach. It's building that collaboration fabric through partner ecosystems, as we have in the panel. I'm happy to sit with every single one of us. Are Zoom partners, so very happy to be on the panel with these gentlemen. Providing the flexibility and enabling either, be it a piece of technology, enabling other software, enabling other components of space management, but being able to connect that to a service that can extend, can reach out to anybody in any other space, in any other flexible kind of component. If it's another partner, customer that may have chosen a different path, that's where you start to really see the value of the Huddle space increase. If you reduce the amount of limitations on who they can connect with, be it in person, audio, video, content only, it doesn't matter. When you have that component that can kind of equalize all environments, then you can start to have more flexibility and more success in the Huddle space.
Well, I would spend more time challenging you guys, but I know we have questions in the audience. If it were me and I had 6 or 10 senior executives that needed to meet at a key meeting at 10 o'clock, and all 6 of them or 10 of them were bringing their own computer and I couldn't test it before they got there, I'd quit. So, but that's just me. Give us your name and your question, please, where you're from.
Hi, I'm Kim Rasmussen from Denmark, and I'm working as a consultant for one of the Denmark's largest companies. We are talking 2017, and the CEO says to me, "Why does it never work?" It never works, no matter what. He spends so much time getting into a meeting room, and the start of the meeting is always 5-10 minutes. Okay, we need to connect, we need to call. We are building a new 5,000 square meters building now. I want it to work. Why is this a question now?
So, by the way, there's a really great analogy around this. In the room, last year, when did somebody go out to their car and it didn't start? Our cars start, right? So every time back in the 70s, you'd go out and you try to start your car and you what is it, 70% chance it would actually start for you? And if it didn't, it screws up your entire day. By the way, when we have technology that doesn't work in the space, it causes a cognitive disruption in our brain. It's like throwing a boulder in a pond and watching the waves go. It takes us a long time for our brains to get over that, whether we're conscious of it or not. And I think to that point, that's why we can't accept trying to put the cheapest solution in the space when they need it to work. And I always say we want our employees focused on working, not making the technology work, and having that consistency of experience. So I go in and I know how to make it turn on and works every time out of the box. And this is, frankly, a lot of the purchasing behavior self-consume that side of it. That's one side. I also think that we like to be artisans a bit much in this industry. We love to try to design this very unique solution versus, what made the iPad amazing was it actually reduced functionality, but it made sure that functionality actually happens. So less is a lot of times more, and I think that a lot of times we get very fascinated in outliers and the end of the spectrum instead of what's the core functionality that needs to occur and how do we make that as simple as possible.
Yeah, that's very true, and I think we get enamored as an industry with so much technology, the latest and greatest features, and how we can add in, like you said, for the corner cases and focusing so much on that, whereas, what the person really wants to do is walk in the room, see the display, see something that says join because they've already scheduled that meeting, and be instantly connected to the call. I mean, that's thinking about the workflow from the end user's perspective. Then once they're in the meeting, they don't want to have to pick up the remote and try to figure out how it works and zoom onto themselves. I mean, we've been guilty of overcomplicating things, and that's why so much of the technology we're focused on now is to, take away the interface that people have to control and make it automatic. You're talking with the automatic face framing. Those technologies exist now. They come with a price, and their prices will be moving down. But I think that the joining is a big problem, and even the operation of the rooms can be a big problem. In the huddle rooms, less so, just because there's less. If you could see everybody in the room, you don't need to worry so much about camera controls and such. But I think the join is a problem that's been solved, and we can do today.
And I think if you look at, a lot of the announcements at the show with a lot of different manufacturers today, everything is about that one touch, or about the one tap, or about a single interface or a single interaction that helps to light up these spaces or light up the environments and initiate those collaboration sessions that you need to have. And going back to the point about the bring your own computer, I think there's room for both in this space and how you do this. Through our partnerships, we have you don't need to bring your computer, it's a room system there, but you can cloud enable it. In our room environment, it's a dedicated device with no keyboard, no mouse, nothing on the table except either an iPad or a Crestron Mercury there, where you can hit that one button and everything lights up for the room. All content's wireless from there. So I think that depending on customer demand, there are needs for both. So the flexibility, again, there's no one answer. It's the demand of the user. And users today use, what was the last 40, 50 apps per day to maintain their business and do what they need to do. They want to collaborate with those apps and in those environments and different workflows they have as they see fit. And it could be, just like in their personal life, it could be Snapchat for one thing, Facebook for another. They may like, Polycom for one. They may like Zoom Room for another. They may like, plugging into Logitech and Yamaha devices with USB for another environment. So,
yeah, and so much is about the organizational size, right? Small companies don't need as much.
I think one of the interesting things which you actually said was like all of these bells and whistles on these products which we put there, which nobody really needs. So I think it's actually up to, I would say, to answer your question, it's up to the IT department at that time as well to make a decision of, yes, that user is asking me for all of these bells and whistles, and this one's asking for other bells and whistles, and this one's asking for other bells and whistles. Am I now trying to really fulfill all of these and get a product which is unmanageable for you at the end of the day? Or am I actually going back as the IT department and saying, like, what do I really need? I need a service which works or which is reliable. I need some products which are reliable. I need to be able that the TV comes on and the other things, and forget all of the other bells and whistles which are actually causing you all of the problems at the end of the day. If you manage 500 rooms, you don't want the bells and whistles. You want something which works every time.
So what's really difficult about that is it's really hard. Because it requires you to actually understand what the hell your employees are doing. And what happens in the process is I think to myself, well, I've got to future-proof. And if I can do X, well, I might as well do Y. And you keep expanding this because we don't actually want to limit the solution and have the tough conversation. And less is more. I always say, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, that's a conversation that we had at a couple of the other sessions here at Infocom where the concept is that we keep building rooms and systems for us. We're the AV geeks, and we're building, if a Martian were to land in a spaceship and come out with a PC I've never seen, I want a solution. I want to be able to make it work. I want to make sure our bases are covered. We're 6% of the users. Our end users, our clients, think we're nuts. They don't want that. They want something with a simple button. They don't want it to be able to do everything. So let's keep moving. I want to ask, we have a question in the audience. Your name and where you're from.
Hi, my name is Cynthia. I'm with Texas A&M University Kingsville, and I'm an instructional designer. And my primary focus is to train faculty to incorporate video into their hybrid and online courses, mainly video conference, web conference, lecture capture. So once a week, I'll get somebody call and say, hey, Collaborate doesn't work. Like, I just used it yesterday for 4 hours and it worked perfectly. Why is it not working for you? So the training aspect involved in this, I tell the faculty, your students know more than you're gonna know. And the person that's gonna know less on this campus is the one that gets paid the most, which is the president and the vice president. So, the training aspect, when the CEO, you guys are talking about corporate, that CEO wants to come in and hit one button, it's sometimes not gonna work for them. But if I get my students to come in a room and they can light the whole thing up and get it to work and do everything that they wanted to do because they're willing to learn and figure out, okay, what does this do? How does this do it? Where, the CIO they just want that one button. It's not always gonna happen for them like that. I mean, the gentleman that talked over here, he said, why doesn't it work? Well, does it not just work for him or does it not work ever? So there's those questions that we also have. I know there's never going to be one solution for everything, but at least you get close enough and you get that one product that will do everything, but for different people. And like you said, all the bells and whistles, but if I don't need all those bells and whistles, I only wanted to do just video and audio, well, it can still do that, but then I can still do lecture capture and share my content and go into breakout rooms and, for the person who wants that. But there's still going to be that extra advanced training for all those. And I think that's where we're not hitting, or maybe it's not being addressed.
Yeah, it's really important to think about those workflows to make sure that we have standard training materials, great, but to make we've got video technology, we've got recording technology. Make the workflow that your users will resonate coming from you, and record that and show here's how you do it, and this is the 5 things that I know that you're going to need to do, and make those up on YouTube, and hey, I can go right to the website and see it. It's that kind of adoption. We can help you with those types of things, but also make sure they're easy to do and you can do them on your own, and it'll really lead to better satisfaction for all your users.
Let me just maybe add a little bit to that. There's a whole new approach that's becoming feasible now, and I think many products are starting to incorporate this, which is to use intelligence and automation, machine learning, to do things automatically that somebody might want to do. Automatically framing a person is one example of that. One way to do that is to use a remote control. Another way would be to create presets and so on. When we found that we could detect a face, wrote a simple algorithm to say, zoom out to include everybody in the conversation, then that process, that very human thing about wanting to include everybody in the conversation, became an automatic function. And it didn't require people to interact with the system to do, if that's what they wanted to do, and it turns out in many cases that that's a good outcome. We're taking that further. So now that we have data on, let's say, people being present in the room, you can automate things like, a lot of companies, for example, have a situation where somebody will try to book a room, all the rooms are booked, so they can't technically book a room to run their meeting, but they walk around, they find rooms are empty. Well, one of the things we can now do is say, wake up, see if there's anybody visible to you, and if not, cancel the booking, open the room up. So these kinds of technologies we think will make workflow better and smoother and easier for people. Paradoxically, at these very low cost points. Right? It used to be some of these things were available at very high price points, or at no price points it's not available. They're now becoming available at commodity price points, which is a huge step forward, I think.
I agree. We have another question here.
My name is Aaron Blake. I'm from the St. Louis area, and I'm a designer and salesperson. And two things, more of a comment. So one of the things that we found in this great conversation is that the more time you spend up front with your clients and figuring out what they really want, the better results are going to be. And for example, one of the things we found out is that a lot of our clients don't actually know what an HDMI connection looks like. So on our touch panels, we actually have a picture of the HDMI that you just slide down like you do on your iPad, and it automatically goes to that input. Or people that we just have one connection, so when you plug it in, it turns on the TV. But one of the things I'd like to say, more of a comment, is I really think that a lot of it, of our problems that we get into, is the advertising that we do on the internet, that our product is the latest and greatest and can do all of these things, and we don't really put any qualifications on the internet. So you go into a meeting and a client said, hey, I've watched all these Logitech videos, I've decided on this Logitech piece, and you're like, well, you can't do this or this, and what are you talking about? And then it just gets into the adversarial thing. I really feel like we don't do a good job of qualifying what these are for and who they're for on the advertising. It's just, hey, this will do everything for you. Slices, dices, cures the heartbreak of psoriasis, all that fun stuff. And that's my comment.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to build as much technology in, but also trying to hide it at the same time. For example, like I want to just simply share some content. He's talked about HDMI. Some people like to use AirPlay. Some people like to use Miracast. Some people, don't have an AirPlay or Miracast enabled device. So we try to build in as much as we can, and then as soon as we do and we get it to market, then there's a new standard that pops in. So we're doing our best to try to cover all those bases, and once again, work with the ways that people want to work with the technologies that they have. And your first comment about design it in from the beginning was probably one of the most important things that you said. It's 10 times more expensive to try to fix a room later than to build it right the first time. And so we've been working, as I heard you mention, with architects and furniture designers and people up front to build the technology in so that it's really easy to deploy when it comes time to roll things out and open that new building.
All right, so let me take a curveball then. Any other questions? If you guys think of anything, just raise your hands and let me know. Now that we've acknowledged that the huddle rooms and the huddle spaces are probably the hottest space in the industry right now, that's where most organizations are increasing their technology rollout. What are you guys doing in terms of providing services and manufacturing products that are not just squeezing your, shoehorning your product into this new application, but you're creating new things that specifically meets these needs. Why don't we start at the end and go right down? What have you changed the way you're doing product development and design, and are there any new things coming that wouldn't work for a big conference room but are actually perfect for the huddle room space?
Yeah, great question. Actually, Logitech is probably a good model for the way a lot of companies work. A few years ago, we went to the open office space where a lot of our workers are sitting in the cafeteria table kind of thing. And then on the trade-off of that, we created a lot more conference rooms. A lot of those are huddle rooms that people can just step into and meet. In addition, I work, our main office is in the Bay Area, but I actually work at a different office in our Washington office, Washington State office. And then I work with a team that's in Taiwan, and so I'm constantly on video throughout the day. I probably have a dozen calls a day around the world, and so and a lot of these calls, because I'm the lone person at one end, I do in a huddle room. And so when we set out to define what makes sense in a huddle room, similar to what I'm sure a lot of people did, we had a lot of experience with this, and so one of the things we looked at was, okay, what's one of the big problems you're going to see in a huddle room? And one of those is mentioned before, that with a narrow field of view, a lot of people just aren't, if you're especially sitting close to the camera, a lot of people just aren't included in the field of view, and so they're not part of the meeting, right? The second part of that is, because huddle rooms tend to be smaller, the tables tend to be smaller, the furniture is smaller, and so the table real estate tends to be more at a premium. People are going to have laptops taking notes and whatever. And so we felt that it was important to develop a product that helped kind of keep everything off the table, kind of an all-in-one solution built in both audio and video. And then from an installer standpoint, an installation standpoint, something that's pretty easy to connect, install, and get working. I mean, we have a product we just introduced for huddle rooms last week. It's available at our booth if you want to see, but it was really designed from the ground up to be a huddle room space.
Terrific. What's it called?
Logitech Meetup.
Meetup, and you're giving it away to some older mind, okay?
Why not?
You get one, yeah.
New car.
Crestron's an interesting example in this space, right? Like we're kind of that classical, huge complex rooms where you can do everything, and perhaps to the fault of a lot of these simpler spaces, because as a user, I just want to go in and have it work. And if you don't think that's a problem, then you're not seeing people using their iPhones in huddle rooms with the speakerphone on because they don't want to screw around with the in-room technology, right? So that requires a very different focus. And we've got a device down there that is called Mercury, which is kind of an all-in-one device, right? It's got our wireless presenting tools. You can do HDMI plug-and-play, auto switches. It gives you the ability to see your schedule at a glance.
It's not a smaller version of your big system, it's a brand new ground up?
Brand new ground up.
Just for huddle rooms?
Just for huddle spaces. And I will say, by doing that, we've actually found that it works really well up into the medium-sized conference rooms also. There's an unbelievable mic array, speakers. I can pair with my phone for Bluetooth. Let's talk about that as an example. If we all agree huddle spaces are meant to go in, quickly have a conversation, then collapse that discussion, right? This is supposed to be a very fast thing. When I pair with my Bluetooth, how does it know to release it when I leave? Because Bluetooth was really designed for own device. If you own your car, so you connect to it, it connects every time. What we've done with the Bluetooth is that it releases it as soon as the call's ended within a certain period of time. So you don't have to worry about walking back to your office and somebody hearing your private conversation with your doctor. Those are the small, subtle things you have to get right when you think about this different work behavior in these different types of spaces. And then, oh, by the way, we also know that most organizations, they don't want to be tied to a single UC provider. Maybe I need to have a GChat with one client, I need to have GoToMeeting and a Polycom, and keep going through the list of all the different providers. So make the device agnostic so it doesn't become a barrier for me being able to use it. And I think that's one of the key areas that we're starting to shift our thinking around, is how do people come in with all these different devices and quickly have conversations.
Okay.
So we anticipated the rise of the huddle room a few years ago and built a completely new architecture with the Pancast device, which is physically very small but consists of 3 cameras, 3 independent cameras, and our video processor where we synchronize, stitch, and optimize the video to create the 180 view and make it look like you're sitting across the table from the folks you're engaged with. Looking forward, we thought that making so many of the things people would want to do automatic, like automatically framing the shot and so on, would bring real value. Now we're thinking about how to give information, data that you can provide to other components of the solution or to the IT team to easily manage these devices and also to automate the workflow, like canceling meetings if people don't show up, providing histograms of who shows up when, how much are these spaces in use. There are many more challenges ahead. It's becoming possible to automatically adapt light, because huddle rooms can often have difficult lighting situations and they can change during the day, especially if you see 180. So we're working on those kinds of things, as well as being able to connect it to the whiteboard. You saw us announce a leadership product, and it's one of the top 10 for this event, called Panicast Whiteboard, where in many of the huddle spaces you may have a whiteboard, and all of us like to, we're visual thinkers, we like to draw and think at the same time. So that comes out as a second virtual stream that you can provide to the other participants. And there's more to come. We think it's a really rich environment for innovation.
So the three of you so far that have spoken are actually designing products just for this space right now. You're not adapting. Holger, anything coming from Yamaha?
So yes, Yamaha just announced the CS700, which is our version of the combined video and audio device. I think I could go through the same list we just heard already 3 times. So we specifically designed it for the room, all of that. One thing which we took into account, though, in our opinion, when we looked at it, when we talked to customers or potential customers for this product, people who are building out the huddle rooms, one of the main concerns is that we heard right from the beginning was what you said earlier. It's like, I am an IT department and I need to manage my 500 huddle spaces suddenly, which I hadn't had to manage in the past. And while for a boardroom I have no problem to go in at 8:30 in the morning when the CEO has a meeting at 9 and make sure everything is working fine and really manage the room for him. With the huddle spaces, I can't go into every huddle room 5 minutes before a meeting starts and make sure that it's running. So when we looked at the product, when we designed the product, we looked at the number of rooms which are out there, and seeing that there are so many rooms, we actually integrated manageability into the product so that you actually are able from your desk to either remotely look into it, proactively, getting warnings, as we talked earlier about, and really gives the ability to the IT department to really manage these rooms and make sure that these rooms are up and running when they are needed. Other than that, I didn't bring it, but I invite everybody to come to our booth and have a look at it. We demo it downstairs, audio, video, everything, and give you a good idea of how it works.
Great.
One of the you asked what we've been doing differently, and one of the things that we've been doing differently is when you talk about products, it would take me this table to fill it up with all the products that we've got in this space. We're delivering multiple products for this market because we know that people have different perspectives depending on where they're coming from. If they view their huddle room as a place where they've come from an audio device, oh, we've got an audio device that does video. If they're coming from the perspective of, oh, I know I'm really comfortable with video, well, then it's a smaller video device optimized for the huddle room space. So we've got, if you want to have a camera in the middle, great. You can see that 360-degree view. So we've got, half a dozen products just designed to solve this huddle room problem, because we know everybody in this room has got a slightly different perspective, and we need to offer products that customers are going to choose.
Great, thank you.
So Zoom is the product that can actually connect every single product and service that was just discussed. So we can actually be the kind of level the playing field across either an individual enterprise environment or multi-enterprise environment, talking with partners and customers, being able to have, we just announced with Crestron, launching our Zoom Rooms product, which is our dedicated software-defined video conference room system, having the touch interface be on the Mercury device that you set in the room. We have integration partnership with Polycom that will actually allow you to have Zoom enable the Polycom system to reach out to additional people and actually be able to reach people on their mobile devices, leveraging Zoom as a back-end service to bridge those calls together via the cloud. We have great technology partnerships with Yamaha, with Panicast, with Logitech, making sure that their devices actually can have that reporting mechanism in place to understand if it is in our Zoom room environment. We understand if it's disconnected. We understand if there might be an issue. Working on ways to develop the upgrades and make sure all of those provide some simple, interactive, simple management components for that huddle space. All of that bridging into our Zoom Rooms technology, which again, software-defined video conferencing system, it does provide that nook as the brain without any human interaction required other than an iPad or a Crestron Mercury or an Android device or even a Windows 10 touch panel that can be the controller, the interface to control that room. So, we really do believe in that being the collaboration fabric you can layer on top of numerous technologies to enable them to extend the reach and make sure you're able to make connections with the various technologies, no matter what the space, no matter what the environment.
Okay, that's great. So take out your crystal balls for a second in the last 5 minutes that we have here. What are the technologies and functions, not brand names, but what do we see coming out in the space over the next 6 months to 12 to 18 months? I mean, we've talked about electronic tracking cameras. What are the other things that we're going to start to see addressing this space that it might not be out there right now?
Going back to the earlier statement, for multi-use systems, I think automation is going to be a big part of it. Understanding.
You didn't mention that voice control. You guys have voice control in your rooms right now, in some of them, and
we did. With the Zoom room, you can walk in and say Zoom start meeting, and actually enable that. You can say Zoom start scheduled meeting, and actually be able to enable that. But more than just initiation, I think looking at understanding machine learning, understanding what's going on, understanding what steps are being taken at what point in time during the conversation, and having that through either a trigger or something that's being sensed, and have automated steps take place to eliminate the human interaction required to facilitate collaboration. I think I would agree with LTS system. That is actually one thing that's going to happen.
More AI. We're remembering the 3 rules, right? Asimov's 3 rules.
I think it's not just about the what's the next new hot technology. As we talked about earlier, we're going to look to integrate those new technologies. I think it's looking at the workflows. I think it's even the work environment that you're in. It could be the room itself, the furniture itself, just looking at how all this comes together. I think we're getting smarter about that as we can make the systems simpler to use, make them more approachable, less problems as people run into. I think we're really focused on the workflows as well as keeping the right technology integration. The voice recognition for start is great. The one-touch dialing for great. It is great. The camera technologies are getting better and getting more and more choices and more options.
Which now leaves me talking about audio, because everybody else was talking about how the camera improves. I believe that we see a lot of new things coming out in audio as well, because we started off, and actually David, you said you have huddle rooms and you have huddle spaces. Actually, we have concentrated a lot on huddle rooms right now. How does a huddle space work for you? Because it has completely different requirements, again, from an audio perspective. There are 5 people or 5 meetings going on within one space at the same time. How do you actually control your audio and make sure that I'm not hearing the meeting which is over there on the system which I'm using here? So I believe that you will see some technology which actually will help in these open workspaces to actually reduce sound going out, sound coming into a unit, and actually allows you to have huddle spaces and meetings in huddle spaces and not only huddle rooms.
Okay. Anyone else?
I spoke a lot earlier about the AI and machine learning aspects, and I think that will actually happen pretty fast. So even as you said, the horizon being 12 to 18 months, you should expect products that make it much easier to run through meetings and the quality of the meetings. Lastly, big data, because that data over time will then become a resource for us to figure out what to automate and how to make the experience much more human.
I just want to add one thing. This is a UC discussion. We love video. We love to talk about that remote collaboration. Again, though, a lot of huddle spaces are open format. You know what a 6-pack of desks are? They take one of them and they turn it into a peninsula table, and that's a huddle space. If Barrett, one of my old colleagues in the back from Herman Miller, that's what they would call a huddle space. In that case, I'm not going to have video because you're going to drive everybody around you crazy. I need a plug-and-play device where I can quickly create and collapse. We have a product called Freeform that we're showing down there. It's a digital graphics engine that allows you to plug and play and wirelessly present. In some cases, that's the perfect thing. Like, less is more. And if we keep trying to jam our old style of, we've been in the industry for 20 years, we're used to doing the big executive rooms, we keep trying to jam that down, I think that, and that requires all of us as manufacturers, and I think we're all doing our part to try to simplify the solutions as well. And that's actually what we're going to see, is less is more over the next 6 months for huddle spaces.
Keep it simple. So you get the last one.
Yeah, thanks. I think
20 seconds.
20 seconds. I think what the difference. what you're going to see in the future is this idea that a meeting space can be better than being there. If you think about going to either a basketball game or a football game, you look at the NFL, you go to a game, it's an experience, but the reality is you're getting a much better experience of seeing and experiencing a game sitting in front of your TV. And so I think that's the direction that video conferencing is going to go, that it is going to get to a point where it is better than being there.
Terrific, thank you. Can we have some applause for our panelists here taking the time? Again, as I said earlier, the presentation is in the Infocom app. If you go to this session and look for it, you can go right in there, you can get it if you need it. Anybody who wants to reach me can reach me. I am literally going to run down the hall to moderate another session, but our panelists are staying here if you'd like to have any questions for them. And if you'd like to find me, go down to the Dimension Data booth later and they can find me for you. Thanks very much.